Hello, this is David Gilmore, known as LDS Prepper, and to watch over 600 videos on emergency preparedness that could save your life, go to ldsprepper.com. I cover the whole range of being prepared in an emergency, which may become the norm. But today, we're talking about radios. And we're talking about, in my opinion, the best family emergency radio that you can have. This video has been long in the making because I've been testing radios. This Retevis 10-watt radio is excellent, but this is a business radio and needs a business license. Really like their products. Matter of fact, I also tested the RB17V. This is a great radio also for what it does. Of course, you can't do a radio test without having a Baofeng in there. This is the UV-B5. I also have many UV-5Rs. In my opinion, the best FRS radio, this is marketed as a GMRS, but it's really an FRS because it's only 2 watts and does not have a removable antenna. This is by far the best family radio for 2 watts or less, FRS, not GMRS, and this is the model GXT1000, and I will have a link down below to all these radios, but if you don't want to get a license, this is the best radio to go with for local communications. This is one of my, probably the second favorite radio that I tested. This is the Wouxun. This is the KG-935G, and it's a great radio. And I'm comparing that with my favorite, the Wouxun KG-935G. I think this is the best radio for non-ham use for a family. Now, in my opinion, having been in many situations where we depended on the radio, 2 weeks, 14 days with no cell phones, no internet, nothing after Hurricane Ike in Texas, the people who were in the know are the people who had radios, and those people were those who had ham radios. But that requires a license. Not everybody wants to get a license. This also requires a license, but there's no test. This is like I've heard others say, buying a fishing license. You just have to apply and then you get a license and then you're good to go. It's $35 for the family, and that includes your wife, your parents, your children, extended family, and so forth. So it's a family license and it's good for 10 years. The ham radio test is also $35 and lasts 10 years, but it does require a test. That sifts out a lot of people. So I'm looking for an application that a family can use that's a step above 2 watts. And I've done lots of testing, and these are just a few of the radios I've tested. I have a lot more that sitting here on the table that I'm not even showing you, like the base stations and mobile units and so forth. A lot of testing going on, and I'll have videos on the other ones. But for a handheld GMRS radio, this is by far the best. And I'm going to go through the features here. I'll put them up here on the screen so you can see them from the user's manual, why I think this is the best for a family emergency radio where you do not want to get a ham license. Now, I have a lot of people tell me, well, I'm going to get a ham radio and because you can buy it without a license, and then I'm only going to use it in an emergency. Well, you won't only use it in an emergency because you won't even know how to use it. And so if you're going to get a ham radio, get the license and get on a net and get in a group so you can learn how to use ham radio, which is really the connected group. For the simple, straightforward, pay $35 for your license and then get your radio, this is the radio I recommend. Let's go through the critical items on this radio that make it, in my opinion, the best radio. In front of you, from the user's manual, we're looking at the features. And I want to go through these to explain to you what this has, but primarily why these are good things. So we'll just go down this list here. 30 GMRS channels. Now, to clarify, GMRS and FRS use the same channels. Those are set channels. There's 22 channels. You can't change them. This radio comes pre-programmed with all those channels included, already ready to use out of the box, and 8 additional repeater channels that you can put in the tones to make work with a repeater. So there are 22 channels. The same channels that are on this radio, this FRS radio, are on this radio. The difference is the wattage. The maximum wattage you can use is 2 watts on an FRS radio, and then this is a 5.5 watt radio here. So does it go out twice as far? Actually, we're able to get 17 miles with this radio. And I'll be showing that in another video. So I'll have 2 or 3 other videos going through the setup and the use and the practical application of this radio. But right now, while they're in stock, I would use the link down below and order your radios so you have them in case there's a circuitry or chip limitation on the market and these become very difficult to get. Again, check down below for the links for the radio. So 30 GMRS channels, there's really only 22. What they did in this radio is they added another 8, which are the repeater frequencies, which are the same frequencies or channels as channels 15 through 22. There's 8 built-in GMRS repeater channels, which I just mentioned, up to 5.5 watts of output power. So the FCC has different wattages that you're allowed to use in different channels or frequencies on the radio. And we'll just call them channels because that's what they're referred to, but every channel is a frequency, but people just know them as channel 1, channel 22, and so forth. It's IP66 waterproof, which means if you're out in the rain and cold and so forth, you're out hunting or you're out in the exposure, as long as you're not swimming with this, you can actually clean this off underneath a garden hose. It says that here right in the manual, but it's not made for submersion. Practical application, yes, you can use this in bad weather. There are 7 NOAA weather channels and NOAA weather alerts. I think that's key. If you're in a situation where we've been many times in earthquakes and hurricanes and so forth, where there is no news on TV and you don't have electricity even to watch TV or listen to your radio or your cell phone goes down, or like in Houston, when FEMA came in and turned off all the cell phone towers so the first responders could have exclusive access on the cell phones, it would be nice to be able to know what the weather is. And so in here, it has all the 7 NOAA weather channels. You're not going to use all 7 of them. You're going to use the 1 or 2 that are closest to you. And then it also has a setting in here where you get an alert when there is an emergency with the weather. So you get the NOAA weather alerts, which is really nice. And that just runs in the background no matter what you're doing with the radio. If there's an alert, it automatically comes through. You can tune specific frequencies into this radio. In other words, right now I have it on channel mode, but if I just push a couple buttons here,
channel mode.
There's channel mode with the channel number.
Channel mode.
Channel mode with the frequency indication.
Channel mode.
Channel mode with the name, and then
frequency mode.
Frequency mode. That means you can punch in any frequency that you want all the way through the UHF and VHF bands and be able to either listen to them or talk on them. If they're GMRS frequencies, then you can talk on them. If they're police or fire or school or ambulance or ham radio frequencies or even repeaters, you can punch them in or program them and listen to those channels without speaking on them. So you can be well informed even though you're not a ham radio operator. This actually will not transmit when you're on those other frequencies other than GMRS. You can be aware what's going on by listening to them. This is another really, really big feature, and this is the simultaneous dual channel receive. I've helped a family here with a wife and 2 daughters, and they want to be in communication in case of emergency, when an emergency happens. But they're also members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and the church has an extensive ham radio communications network on a congregation or ward level, on a community level, in a regional level. So they can actually monitor that in this radio and still have their primary family frequency set up in here. And I've set up the radio so that they have tones so that not hearing all the other chatter from what you hear on a regular FRS radio, like this that I recorded today.
Yo, what's up?
Just talking to you.
Right on, man.
I mean, we just don't need to listen to that when we're trying to communicate important information. So by using the tones that you can program in here, there's like 114 tones or something like that, you can cut out all that chatter. So I really like being able to monitor multiple channels while you're listening to your primary channel, and you maybe even scanning the emergency channels in the background. We'll talk more about that later. 4-color display, I like the black 2 display. I think it's the easiest to see, but you can set that up. Wide and narrow bandwidth selectable. Really, you're just going to have everything on wide except for the middle channels in this radio, and so don't worry about programming that. Up to 99 custom channels. That's 1,000 channels saved in your radio is a lot of channels. But again, you're able to save UHF, VHF, so ham radio channels, repeater channels, police channels, fire, emergency, and those kind of things in your radio. And if you have multiple GMRS repeaters in your area, you can set that up with the repeater tones too. Standard and non-standard CT, CSS, and DCS tones. So you can use standard or non-standard. I don't know why you would need to use non-standard, but there may be a situation and you can do that. Split CTS and DCS tone. So if the repeater has one tone coming in and another tone going out, analog and a digital, then your radio can work with that. Channel scan, which is really nice. So here on this radio, there's a button here that says band. And what I've done in this radio is on the top band, A band, I programmed in specific channels that I want to listen to. And for example, I have in here 3 family channels with tones, so they're not listening to all the other normal chatter. They have their ward channel, they have their stake channel, they have the region channel, and then they have the Bishop Storehouse channel. So those are a very short list, and I can just scroll through those through the scan. And then on the lower channel down here, band B, I can scan down here all the other channels, maybe all the repeater channels for a ham radio or the FRS channels or whatever else I want. I can put down here and scan those. So I could be actually having this primary channel up here for my family, so it's always there, always listening, while I'm scanning down here for the other channels, so I'm informed of what's going on in the community. For this particular situation, I have a priority channel set, so if they're scanning, every other channel that they're scanning is that priority channel. So they're not going to miss a call if somebody from the family calls and says, hey, we need to get over to mom's or dad's or whatever. Because they may be monitoring a different channel up here and scanning down here or whatever. But if it's in scan mode, every other channel is that priority channel. Really nice feature to have in this radio. You can also set up groups. I haven't found a real application for the group setup yet, so I'm not going to go into that in detail here. There may be an application, and if you're aware of an application and use the group in these kind of radios, please comment down below. As I showed earlier, you can have the frequency,
Channel mode.
you can have the channel name,
Channel mode. Channel mode.
you can have different modes here, the name, number, or frequency shown in here. I like having the name in here. So for example, here this is GMRS 18. That way I know that it's a standard GMRS radio. The other ones I have named Family 1, Family 2, Family 3. Then I have local repeaters in there with the names. And so I'm able to look at it and go, oh yeah, that's repeater, whatever, and not have to just look at a frequency number. Looking at a frequency really doesn't mean anything to an average family radio user. The nice thing about being able to program a frequency is in here is though, if somebody says, hey, you need to be listening to this frequency, you just go to frequency mode, punch in that frequency, and then either you can talk or listen to that frequency. That's really a big advantage to hear. So not only is it a GMRS radio, but it's also a listen to radio for other frequencies that are outside of the GMRS range. Really nice feature. Incoming caller ID display, that's only if you're setting up groups. Voltage display, now you can set this up so when you turn it on it shows the voltage, but I don't know of any other way to show the voltage other than the little battery it has up here in the corner. So I don't know if that's the voltage display. Compounder is good if you're talking long distances away. This family is 17 miles away, and we're actually able to reach this with this 5-watt radio. Make sure you're subscribed so you watch that video so you can see how we set that up, that they're able to reach 17 miles apart with just a handheld GMRS radio. No ham radio license and no repeaters. So this is a grid down situation, and they're able to communicate like they're standing next door. It's super, super clear. the antenna and the radios, they purchase those through buy2wayradio.com. Again, links are down below that support this channel, and also just amazing support over there. Sometimes I just call companies to see what their staff sounds like, if they're courteous or if they're abrupt, if they really know their stuff. And you know what? Everybody I've talked to at Buy2Way Radios is outstanding. Really, really good. Very considerate. They didn't have the answer at their fingertips. They put me on hold for a minute or two, got the answer, and came back to me. If they didn't have the answer, they sent me over to tech support. Just really good people over at Buy2Way Radios. You're not buying off of a mega store and have no one to contact. You're buying from a US-based, American-staffed, English-speaking company that knows what they're talking about and can help you with your radios. The worst thing you can do is buy a piece of equipment and not understand the manual, which is really, really well written, or just don't understand how to use something and not have any support. That will not happen when you buy these from buy2wayradios.com. And again, affiliate links down below to help support this channel and to support that company. This radio has descrambling capability. Why it has it, I don't know, because it's illegal to scramble on GMRS, FRS, UHF, or VHF in the ham frequency ranges. And so, but people do it. So if someone using a voice scrambler, you can descramble that on your radio if you want to. It also has tone encoding and decoding. And this can be useful if you're on the main channel, say channel 18, and or channel 6, doesn't make any difference, and someone is using a sub-channel or a tone so that they're not hearing everybody on the main channel. You're hearing that conversation, and you may be needing that channel for emergency use. No one has a right over somebody else on a channel. We just use common courtesy. But if they are using a tone to kind of make so they're not hearing all the other external chatter, you may need to let them know, hey, we really need this channel for the community because there's an emergency here. This radio will actually find the tones, the either analog or digital tones, and then store them in the radio, and then you can talk to those people and say, hey, we have an emergency here, can you use a different channel? Or something along that line. So that's the capability of this radio. It has a group call, all call, and select call. Again, I haven't found this group call or the call function that practical for a family situation. There may be for a group situation where you have group A, group B, group C, or congregation 1, congregation 2, congregation 3, or something like that. That may be beneficial, but not necessary for a family. So that's the overview. The things that I like the most about this radio: it has weather alerts, it has multiple channel scanning, it has multiple channels monitoring. You can listen to ham radio, police, and so forth, but not transmit on them. I have been sitting with this radio and many others in my office testing this, and this radio, because of the quality of the radio, picks up many more conversations than the other radio sitting right next to it. It's just a high quality radio. This is significantly better than the Baofeng radio, and sitting right next to each other, this one won't pick up a conversation that this radio does. And with a different antenna, it even works better. And I'll go over some accessories here in another video. My next video that I'll make is how to buy this. Now you can buy this as a single radio. You can buy it as a dual radio set. They have an anniversary kit, which is what I got. They have a prepper kit. I'll go over that in the next video and help you decide which one might work best for you. But as far as, in my opinion, the best family GMRS radio, so non-ham radio for emergency, is this radio right here. You can use it in emergency. You can use it camping, hunting, fishing, activities, whatever you're doing at the park, and be able to be in touch with each other. So stay tuned, subscribe, so you can get updates on the other videos. Use the links down below to support this channel and support buy2wayradios.com. And as I always say, this is LDS Prepper. If you are prepared, you shall not fear.